Something that I find really fascinating is the idea of creating very intimate, human-centric stories. As a cinematographer, it's our job to essentially take what's written down on the script and translate that visually. How do we draw emotion out of the camera, out of the lighting, and put it into the characters and put it into the story to create a well-rounded piece? What I'm going to be talking about is a project that I recently worked on, a passion project where it was very intimate, very human-centric, very family-based, and my goal as a cinematographer was to take what was on the script and translate that and put that into the cinematography, and hopefully I'm able to share some knowledge today that will better inform you guys into how you could do that on your upcoming projects. Before I talk about this project, I want to talk a little about intimacy, and I don't really mean the word intimacy in terms of sexual intimacy. In this project in particular, it's more about family. It's about a father and a wife raising a daughter, and it's, in depth, it's really about a father and the daughter's relationship as she grows into a young woman. And that to me is a form of intimacy that was really intriguing to me when reading the script and kind of diving into this project. So the question is, after reading the script, how do I as a DP immerse you, the viewer, into the world that we are creating here? How do I draw the emotion out of the cinematography that you as a viewer can feel the same emotion and feel like you are a part of this world that the characters are in? So this project was created by Coburn, a longtime friend. I've been friends with this guy for, I don't know, it's got to be like 8 years now. And he saw me when I first started. I grown up kind of with this guy, and it's really cool to see him take the next step in terms of directing. He has been talking about wanting to direct for a really long time, and finally he wrote a script and took the initiative and took action to actually make it happen, which is honestly just a first note that I want to share is, like, if you want to do something, just go out and do it. It's not going to be perfect your first time. It's not going to be your best piece the first time, but you're never going to actually be able to do that thing unless you go out and do it. And no one's going to hand it to you. So I give it up to Ryan for taking the initiative to actually go out and create a project, spend his own money, and be able to actually put a piece together that he and everyone who worked on it is really proud of. So when creating a project like this, especially a passion project or a spec piece, there's a few things that I as a DP like to take into account and kind of just question in pre-production and make sure that everything is aligned up for production. And these things include budget, how many days do we plan on shooting, how long is the script, how many scenes do we want to shoot per day, how many characters, intended location, and also just style of shooting and style of cinematography, style of filmmaking, because there's tons of styles, and if you want to do the most elaborate, huge camera move type of project, that's obviously going to cost a lot more. So taking these things into account in pre-production will allow you to better set yourself up for success going into production, knowing what you're kind of getting yourself into and how to prep for that.
Let's see. Yeah. And if you
don't get them.
I know, that's what bad. Awesome, fantastic. Further out than she was before?
Yeah, take a step back.
Oh, I just messed the door up. Didn't I?
Take a step to your...
Yeah, I think that's closer because we had Meadow.
All right.
That wasn't the first time they did it.
What's that called, Carlos?
That's called being short as hell with stubby ass arms.
I probably.
The one thing I've seen across the board in resulting in a successful production is simplification and living within the world of your limitations. This story is a perfect example of that. Small, one location, few characters, not very elaborate camera movements, but it's raw and it's emotion-based, it's character-driven. And again, I want to reiterate, it's our job as a DP, especially on passion projects when you're working with a director that is trusting you to shoot that project, to discuss the project, find suggestions, provide better alternatives, and essentially find ways to trim down fat. Because a lot of the times you want to create passion projects and you go above and beyond, but in reality, there's a lot of things that you don't really need in the script, or you don't really need to be shooting. And by talking with the director and cutting down certain things, trimming the fat essentially, you're able to allocate more time to the scenes that actually deserve it, rather than having to cut the time to those scenes that deserve it and splitting it with scenes that honestly might not make it in the cut or don't even have that big of an impact. So as a DP, it's good to recognize what those scenes are. It might be good to talk to your director in a way of like, hey, we might not need this particular scene, but if we shoot it this way, it's kind of doing both in one, but it'll save us 30 minutes on the back end over here, but it'll give us, an hour extra for this one scene. And, obviously it's the director's call at the end of the day, but if you provide suggestions that make sense, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go with it. Going into this project, I knew that the schedule was going to be very tight. I knew that we were going to be having to move very fast, and it was going to be kind of like not run and gun, but there were certain scenes where it was outdoors, where I intended it to be more run and gun, not big, diffusion frames, big bounces. I wanted that to be as raw as we possibly could, and then when we were inside, have some time to actually light those scenes. So when talking about camera movement, I knew that the best way to accomplish this project was handheld. And I did have some sticks. I did have some, more decisive, more controlled movements when the story needed that. But for most of it, it was handheld, it was raw, it was engaging, and it was really emotion driven. And what I love about handheld is the spontaneity it provides. Especially for this project, we worked with children, which can be tough, but could also provide some really beautiful, unpredicted moments. And one that I want to share is a scene where the father and the daughter are in the driveway, and the father just gave the daughter a brand new tricycle. And while we were me and the director and the crew were kind of conversing about how we were going to do this and just talking, I look over to the driveway, and the father and the child actor are already talking. They're essentially getting comfortable with each other. And I noticed that the daughter was like playing with his hair, and like they were having what we really wanted in the scene was happening right now. As soon as I saw that moment, I was like, why are we not shooting? This is what we need. So I turned to Ryan, the director. I'm like, let's just go shoot this right now. And he agreed. And I just picked up the camera, no easy rig, just pure handheld, and got these amazing, authentic, unplanned moments between the child actor and the father, who this wasn't even intended. They were just kind of getting comfortable with each other, and we were able to capture a lot of these authentic moments. And that is really what I love about handheld, is the spontaneity it provides. And also, you can wait for a child to do the thing that you want, but sometimes they just are already doing the thing. I think that's something I love about this project in particular, and that I miss on big commercials, is the ability to just go and do that. If we were on a huge commercial and we had a ton of people to have, we wouldn't have been able to capture that moment. Handheld is an art in and of itself, and it's quite easy to make it look bad. Fortunately, I kind of grew up doing handheld. I didn't have, I had a gimbal, but I didn't really use it. And a lot of the people that I was surrounded with did handheld, so I was able to learn from them. And that was just a style that I was really accustomed to, especially not having much money. I was just able to hold the camera and just go and do my thing. So I practiced handheld a lot coming up, and it's one style that I think I'm pretty good at. What helped also is the fact that the Venice is quite heavy, so you don't have those little micro jitters that you normally get with smaller cameras. Granted, it is really heavy, and it's good to have an easy rig because you don't want to hurt yourself, you don't want to break your back. And in some moments, I didn't use the easy rig. A lot of the handheld that I like to do is just kind of slight swaying. I don't like to do very jittery motions unless the story calls for it. But for this one, it's trying to just be, there with them. It's trying to be smooth, but also trying to find moments where you could do a little bit of a push in if you need to get closer, if you feel that. So it's just about feeling. And I think something that I find interesting about handheld is the idea of being reactive, but also proactive. And what I mean by that is reactive, meaning you are watching what's happening on the screen and what the actors are doing and reacting to their action. But if you are also simultaneously being proactive, you are kind of anticipating what the actors are going to do, so that when you do react to what they're doing, you kind of had that anticipation already, so that movement or that motion that you're about to do isn't abrupt or like you're trying to catch up to them. It is smoother because you anticipated them going to do that thing while you're still reacting to them doing that thing. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's good to be a reactive operator, but also be proactive in that sense too, and be good at anticipation. Lensing is also something that I find really important in these moments, and we shot this on my Sony Venice full frame open gate, and we used my Tokina Vista Primes, which are full frame lenses. I believe for a lot of the intimate close-up handheld stuff, I use the 35mm, and the reason why I use 35 is because, you could use 18, which is like that Chivo look where you get up close and personal. But the 35mm gave me that close knit feeling of being with the actors, but also still being a bit of a distance away, but also making the faces still feel real Like the 18 can make the face look a little bit warped. The 35 for me makes it still feel real, makes it feel authentic, and you also still get a good depth of field as well. But for this story, 35 was really where I landed in being able to tell this story effectively and honestly. Last thing I want to mention is kind of just about taste a little bit, and something that I talk to my first ACs about is, certain moments where I'm doing handheld and I'm just capturing raw moments. It's okay for the focus to kind of go in and out. And I find this to be a really natural thing. Some people like it, some people don't like it, and it's important to talk to your AC about this. If allow the characters to kind of come in and out of focus a little bit. It doesn't need to be all the time, but find moments where they kind of come in, come out. It makes it feel slightly more organic. It makes it feel more real, and it just kind of like allows for the sense of like freedom within the frame. So that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Hopefully you found some benefit. This project will be coming out in a few months. We still have a few more scenes that we have to shoot. Be sure to follow the director Ryan below. I'll link his Instagram, his website below. And yeah, stay tuned for a more cinematography and lighting specific breakdown on some of these scenes. And I think that's it. Hopefully you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time. Peace out.